Arsenal could take Ona Batlle from FC Barcelona women on a free. Chelsea are dragging every Women's Super League home match to Stamford Bridge, and Manchester United are trying to lock down Kobbie Mainoo while fresh midfield rumors start flying again. That is not harmless background. So that is clubs telling you where they feel secure, where they feel exposed, and where the summer pressure is already starting to squeeze. Then Manchester City get a fresh reminder of how much Bernardo Silva still matters, and an Asian Champions League semi-final turns into a VAR farce that made the football feel almost secondary. Skip the next few minutes and you miss the real pattern. Good to have you back with Just Soccer, where the interesting part is never the headline alone. It is the motive under it. And Arsenal's push for Ona Batlle says plenty about how serious clubs try to win summers before the chaos starts. Start here, because clever recruitment does not always arrive with fireworks and a giant transfer fee. Sometimes the sharp move is spotting a free agent before everybody else starts pretending they saw it first. Spain defender Ona Batlle close to agreeing Arsenal move. Free agent deals are where recruitment departments get exposed, because once the fee disappears, the quality of the decision has nowhere to hide. If Arsenal pull this off, the story is not just that Ona Batlle is available. It is that Arsenal saw proven quality at FC Barcelona women and moved before the market turned into theater. BBC reports that Spain defender Ona Batlle, currently at FC Barcelona women, is close to agreeing a move to Arsenal this summer as a free agent. That wording matters a lot. Close to agreeing is not the same as signed, sealed, and posing with the shirt, no matter how badly the internet wants to skip the boring middle part. From Arsenal's side, this is exactly the sort of move that invites a real football conversation instead of fake auction drama. Supporters will look at the upside of adding an experienced defender and weigh it against the squad's current depth, because good recruitment is not just collecting names like they are stickers. If you can bring in a player of Batlle's level without paying a fee, that gives you flexibility elsewhere, and flexibility is usually more valuable than whatever flashy rumor is trending for 6 hours. What nobody should do is invent details that are not there. BBC says close to agreeing, not completed. The report frames it as a free agent move, but there is no reported fee because it is a free transfer situation, and there is no reported contract length either. So this looks promising for Arsenal, and it looks smart, but it still sits short of official confirmation. From one kind of squad planning to another, Chelsea have made a decision that says plenty without signing a single player. Stadium choices are never just logistics. They are a statement about hierarchy, ambition, and pressure. Chelsea to play all BSL games at Stamford Bridge from next season. A club's home tells you what it wants the world to believe about itself, and Chelsea are making sure nobody can call the women's side an afterthought. The romantic attachment to smaller grounds is understandable, but if Chelsea women are going to live at Stamford Bridge for league matches, then the scrutiny rises with the wallpaper. Chelsea women have announced that all of their Women's Super League games will be played at Stamford Bridge from next season. Kings Meadow is not disappearing from the map because it will continue to be used for academy matches. That detail matters, since this is a repositioning of the first team rather than some dramatic scorched earth relocation. There is a real debate inside a move like this. Plenty of supporters will love the visibility, the symbolism, and the sense that Chelsea are putting the women's side on the biggest internal stage available. Others will wonder about atmosphere and whether a larger venue always feels like home in the way supporters want. That is not negativity, that is football culture doing what football culture always does and asking whether scale and soul can comfortably share the same address. Still, the decision is clear. Stamford Bridge becomes the home for Chelsea Women's League matches from next season, and once a club makes a gesture that loud, the expectations change with it. Bigger venue, bigger message, bigger pressure if performances dip. Now to Manchester United, where one of the most important moves of the summer may involve keeping hold of what already works. That should sound obvious, but this club has spent years treating obvious things like advanced mathematics. Kobbie Mainoo set to sign new 5-year Man United deal. Contract control is not glamorous, yet it is often the clearest sign that a club understands its own future better than the rumor mill does. If Manchester United get Kobbie Mainoo tied down on new terms, that is not revolutionary. It is just the sort of competent housekeeping they have too often made look painfully difficult. Sky Sports Paper Talk reports that Kobbie Mainoo is set to sign a new 5-year deal with Manchester United. Again, the wording is the story as much as the story itself. Set to sign is still a report, not an official club announcement, so this is a strong indication rather than a completed act. United supporters will understandably like this, because Mainoo has become one of those players who feels central to the club's next phase rather than decorative around it. He is the kind of midfield figure fans want protected, developed, and built around, especially at a club that has burned a lot of money searching for identity and occasionally looks surprised to find none. Locking down a player like this is not a luxury item. It is basic structural sense. What Sky Sports has not done here is attach salary numbers, agent theatrics, or a final official reveal. So keep the temperature sensible. The expectation appears positive, the direction looks clear, but until the club confirms it, this remains paper talk and not a signed contract sitting in a drawer at Old Trafford. Staying in the Premier League, one of the sharpest pieces today is not actually a transfer report at all. It is the kind of analysis that lands harder because it asks a nasty question. What happens if Manchester City really do lose the player who keeps so much of this machine stable? Bernardo Silva's performance against Arsenal shows what Manchester City are losing. Some footballers only get fully appreciated when the idea of losing them becomes real, and Bernardo Silva lives in that category. People love shiny replacements on paper, but Bernardo Silva gives Manchester City control, intelligence, and ugly little bits of hard work that spreadsheets often flatter and still somehow miss. The Guardian uses Bernardo Silva's performance against Arsenal to underline what has made him indispensable to Pep Guardiola. That is an important distinction. This is not a piece built around a confirmed bid, a named suitor, or active exit negotiations. It is an argument about value, using a major performance to remind everyone how much he shapes Manchester City's best version. That Arsenal display matters because it showed the parts of Bernardo Silva's game that become obvious in huge matches. He is not there to look decorative. He tidies chaos, keeps the ball moving, reads pressure before it arrives, and works like somebody has offended him personally. City have had many brilliant players under Guardiola, but not all brilliance carries the same tactical glue. Silva often feels like the player who stops a complex structure from wobbling at the exact wrong moment. So when the article asks what City are losing, it is not doing transfer gossip with better grammar, it is making a football point. No specific offer has been confirmed here, and nobody should invent one, but the anxiety rings true because his importance is visible every time a big match turns tense. Away from transfer chatter and squad planning, football still found time to stage one of its favorite side acts, procedural self-destruction. The Asian Champions League produced a semi-final where the process became the spectacle, and that is never a compliment. Turning football into rubble. Chaos reigns in Asian Champions League after VAR intervenes over substitution. VAR was supposed to reduce chaos, yet stories like this are why supporters now hear the phrase and prepare for a legal drama with shin pads. When a semi-final exit gets swallowed by confusion over process, the officials have not protected the game. They have shoved the game off stage. ESPN reports that VAR overturned a goal over a substitution in an Asian Champions League match, and the result was major controversy over how the game was handled. The match ended with a controversial semi-final exit, which is exactly the kind of ending that keeps a procedural mistake alive far longer than a routine league complaint ever would. There is no need to force this into some transfer-shaped box. The story is already serious enough. The debate is about VAR process, substitution protocol, and whether people watching could actually understand what was happening before the competition tilted on it. That is the real damage. Supporters can tolerate a painful decision more easily than they can tolerate a system that feels opaque, delayed, and weirdly proud of its own confusion. And that is the risk after a night like this. Every future intervention starts carrying the baggage of the last one, especially when a place in a final disappears inside controversy. If people leave an Asian Champions League semi-final talking less about football than procedure, trust has taken the hit. Back to Chelsea, and this one is far less polished than the Stamford Bridge announcement. A shiny strategic message is one thing. A manager publicly questioning desire after a 3-0 defeat is the bit that stains the carpet. Indefensible and unacceptable furious Rosenior questions Chelsea's desire. Managers complain about shape all the time. When they start questioning desire, they are accusing the group of something much uglier than a tactical mistake. Liam Rosenior's words matter because they drag recruitment mentality and dressing room standards into the same uncomfortable spotlight. BBC and ESPN report that Chelsea boss Liam Rosenior launched a fierce criticism of his team after a 3-0 defeat at Brighton. The language attached to the reaction is severe, indefensible, and unacceptable. That is not ordinary post-match steam. That is a manager telling the public that what he saw crossed the line. Supporters will naturally connect those comments to the summer, because once a coach questions desire, the discussion moves beyond one bad tactical day. It becomes a profile problem. What kind of players are in this squad? Who responds under pressure? Who disappears when the game gets ugly? Football clubs love to talk about talent, but talent without edge can collapse in a hurry, and a 3-0 loss tends to rip the polite wrapping paper straight off that truth. It is still important not to sprint into fantasy consequences. These quotes do not confirm a sacking, and they do not automatically create a transfer list. What they do confirm is that Chelsea took a heavy defeat at Brighton, and that Rosenior felt compelled to question the side's appetite in public. That sticks, and it sticks because supporters can forgive errors more easily than they forgive a lack of fight. Now for one of the strangest stories of the day, because it sits above the pitch and still carries football consequences everywhere. Sergio Ramos talking about Sevilla as part of a takeover process is not exactly a normal Tuesday headline. Sergio Ramos on Sevilla takeover bid going well. Ownership stories are football stories in slow motion because whoever gains control eventually shapes budgets, recruitment, and the tone of the whole club. The emotional pull of Sergio Ramos and Sevilla is obvious, but nostalgia is not governance, and supporters should know the difference. ESPN reports that Sergio Ramos expects to have news soon regarding a bid he is leading to take over Sevilla. His comments were upbeat, with the process described as going well. That sounds encouraging if you want movement, but it still does not mean the takeover is completed or legally finalized. This is where football can get a little drunk on symbolism. A club legend around a takeover story creates instant emotion, and Sevilla is not a club where identity sits quietly in the background. Supporters will inevitably wonder what this could mean for sporting direction, authority inside the club, and the broader future if the bid keeps advancing. Fair enough, but the hard part starts after the romance, because ownership is not a mural. It is structure, decision-making, and money. So for now, the sensible reading is simple. Ramos says progress is being made, ESPN frames the story around movement rather than completion, and Sevilla supporters are left waiting for the next concrete development in a situation that could reshape much more than a headline. And we finished a run with Manchester United back in the market rumor machine, because of course they are. One story says keep Mainoo, the next says look at Juventus midfielder Kobbie Mainoo too. That pairing tells its own story. Transfer rumors news, Man United in for Juventus midfielder. The Kobbie Mainoo link matters less as celebrity gossip and more as a clue that Manchester United still do not think one good midfielder solves a whole midfield. Supporters are right to ask whether a rumored target fits the actual football problem, because United have spent enough years collecting names and calling it planning. ESPN FC includes Juventus midfielder Kobbie Mainoo in transfer rumor coverage linking him with Manchester United. Keep the category in view at all times here. This is rumor coverage, not a verified bid, not a medical, and not a player forcing the exit door open with a suitcase in hand. Still, rumors can reveal the shape of a club's thinking even when they remain speculative. If United are expected to secure Mainoo on a new deal and are still being linked with another central midfielder, the message is fairly clear. They know one key young player does not magically solve balance, depth, control, or the endless problem of trying to build a midfield that can survive the season without looking like three separate ideas taped together. There are no confirmed fee details in the item, no contract terms, and no verified claim that Kobbie Mainoo has asked to leave Juventus, so caution is mandatory. But total dismissal would also miss the point. The rumor fits a broader picture in which Manchester United appear to be protecting a midfield future while still shopping for another piece, which tells you the rebuild is not finished and they know it. That is the shape of the day. Arsenal may have spotted value at FC Barcelona women before the crowd arrives. Chelsea are raising the stage for their Women's Super League side, while dealing with very different Chelsea questions elsewhere. Manchester United want Mainoo secured, but still look like a club searching for midfield certainty. Manchester City are being reminded that Bernardo Silva is not the sort of player you replace with a neat little graphic. Sevilla could be staring at a power shift, and the Asian Champions League just showed how quickly process can wreck a football night. The common thread is not glamour. It is control, and the clubs that lack it usually tell on themselves sooner than they think.